Yeah.
Welcome to Our Generation with Melissa Shaw. We are here with another episode with Mr. Shine,
Hey, what's
where
up? What up?
we
What up? What up?
educate, empower, and inspire. And I'm super excited to have you on my show. You do a lot in the community. You've written a book,
I have.
you have a
I have.
podcast, you
I,
do a lot
I
here at
do.
P30.
I do.
So,
I do a couple things.
yeah, I just wanted to really let my audience know about you and what you're doing in the community. So, if you just tell everybody your name, kind of your background.
Most definitely. First and foremost, I appreciate you for having me on. This is something that I haven't done a lot of in other people's podcasts.
Okay.
So I'm just starting to really get into that. So thank you for having me on. I think it's probably maybe like my third one or
Okay.
so.
You're
So
welcome.
third time's a charm.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
absolutely.
So I appreciate you for
Yeah.
having me. Yeah, no, like Melissa said, my name is Sean Washington. I've been doing a lot of things in a short amount of time of life,
Yeah.
um, from sports to coaching to mentoring to being an author. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and somebody's looking at my obituary, I just wanted to say family man.
Mm.
That's all. Like all the other stuff, that's cool, but I just want to family man. That's it.
Yeah.
That's why I want my legacy to be being a
Wow.
family man.
That's dope.
Yeah, so
So
yeah.
where does all of that play fall into? Everything that you do.
Um, in my perspective, when we have our families together, everything that we've experienced in life changes for the better. For instance, with I lived in the hood off of East 34th Street, 46218, and I had my dad in the household, and he was married to my mother. There was no infidelity. There wasn't many people in that neighborhood during that time that were my age that had their fathers as well.
Wow.
So that was a rare situation. But in all honesty, if you had your family together, it should be the norm
Yeah,
per
you're
se,
right.
right?
Yeah.
So getting back to helping people have the same type of upbringing that I had,
Yeah.
that's a huge goal of mine. And then add all the other layers to it, but really having that peace of mind and your peace of home.
Hmm.
Growing up, that's what I want to have. Young people, the young people I talk to, I want to have them. If they didn't have that, I want to inspire them to do those type of things when they end up rearing up children and having a family. So that's the inspiration behind everything that I do now. Is giving the people that didn't have it or don't have it inspiration is like, hey, you can be the change you want to see for your family.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So you wrote a book. Tell us a little bit about your
I
book.
did, I did. The book is titled "Knowing the Stranger Within," Volume One. It's a prerequisite to the Leave Your Lineage brand. That's the name of my podcast as well. So the mission is to end generational dysfunction for our families. If you don't know who you are and what you've been through, it's hard to lead your family away from dysfunction.
Yeah.
So you have to know yourself. That's where the title comes from. It's a wordplay to be able to know the stranger within. And the subtitle is "How to Go Within So You Can Never Go Without." So when we talk about the whole dynamics of the concept of life, right? I have something called that I use for myself called a sacred circle. Like it's like a bullseye per se. So I'm in the middle of it, and I have the next ring, the next circle. Those are like my 5 to 10 people. If I ever need something in life, I can call them,
Yeah.
and that's talking to a lot of elders, a lot of peers. When you really sit down and look at it, you only got about a good five to 10 people that you gonna call if like you need any type of emergency, watch your children, uh, you need some money, you need some counsel, whatever that looks like. So probably about a good 5 to 10 people for your entire life,
Yeah.
and those people might change,
Hmm.
but at a certain time, I believe from my conversations, most people have about 5 to 10 people.
I agree with that.
So
We
you
can know a
understand
lot of people, but to
absolutely
have people in that inner circle
for
part,
sure.
yeah.
For sure. So that sacred circle, you the individual in the middle, and you got that 5 to 10 people in the next ring, and the next bullseye, the next circle. Those are your people that you can build with.
Mm.
whether it be intellectually, from a business perspective, whether it be whatever that is for you as the individual that's in the center. That's that next circle. Those are your people that you met on your day two, on your ascension, on becoming a better person. And then after that, it's the community. That surrounds all of that. If you don't have your family together, there's no such thing as a community in my perspective. So.
Yeah, that's good. I know you did you did a class here that I missed. It was
Yep.
based off your book, right?
Yes, yep.
So tell us a little
Yep.
bit about that. And you're going to be having another one, correct?
I will. Yep, it's coming up soon. We haven't solidified the date yet, but it will be here at P30 for sure. The name of the workshop was Human Being versus Human Doing. So in the book, I speak about how a lot of people, when I used to work in higher education in Indiana State. And as an admissions counselor, I always asked this question when I was interviewing prospective students. I was like, hey, what type of lifestyle do you want? And they were not able to, 90% of the time, students were not able to give me a direct answer. So they would either say, I don't know. They would look at their parents or guardians or their friends to answer that question for them, or they would just shrug their shoulders.
Wow.
90% of the time.
Wow.
So I'm like, okay, some point, somebody's doing a disservice.
Yeah.
At some point, if you don't even know who you are, but you're about to sign on this debt, it's like, something ain't right. So, and then I took that same question and applied that to the schools I speak at too. Still the same thing. So I'm like, okay, this is something we have to solve now, and I'm really becoming obsessed with it because it's something that will save a lot of people energy.
Absolutely.
And
money.
That too. And
money
you're
going
too.
into debt when you're like, that's not even what you want to do.
And you don't even know who you are.
Yeah. And at 18, 19, 17, like that, you're still, like I look at my daughter, she's 19 and she has no clue. Like she just is, that age is so different now.
Yeah, I did a workshop a couple weeks ago and I asked that question. And this room was probably, everybody in the room was in between 14 and 17, the young people. And I was looking like, man, they are different, but they also have access to information too.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can us as adults be a guide to get them to prioritize knowing who they are before they start making these life-changing decisions? And I would even speak from my own perspective too. When I was their age, I just wanted to play sports. Yeah. That's all I wanted to do. I didn't care about school. I just did school because I wanted to play sports. That was the only reason I did school. But getting exposed to different things and being in different environments, I'm like, life is way bigger than sports. And a lot of people, whatever bubble they grew up in, if that exposure in that environment never changes, they'll start to only see that bubble that they're in.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's like, we have to do something different. So that's
and the schools play along with that too.
For sure.
Because you think they're at schools sometimes more than they're at home.
No, they are.
And so that environment is really not teaching them to think for themselves. It's more of be a follower and go get a job and go to work and stay there till you're 80 years. That's just what's taught. It's not taught that there's anything else out there.
Absolutely. And with what we are attempting to do with Legion Lineage, and we're in the beginning stages of it, is creating a properly held family-owned business where essentially we're creating our own ecosystem amongst our bloodline.
Nice.
So even in that regard too, that's not even a traditional thing.
Yeah.
Because statistically, only 3% of family businesses succeed. And when you look at it, you can relate to your relatives because y'all are related. So at the beginning of time until the end of time, you will always have family. Whether it be blood or people you meet along your journey, you always have family to go back to. If you don't do family business, like I said, you take a step back and just look at everything, start seeking truth. Families are literally running everything in the world, but our families are dysfunctional. We got to make it make sense.
Yeah.
It ain't. something ain't adding up. You feel me?
Right.
So it's like, all right, we got to do something different. So just taking a step back and just seeking truth. And in that truth seeking journey, I was able to start something magical and magnificent with my cousin. That's what we do with Lead Your Lineage, is to bridge that gap and be like, hey, we can do this.
Yeah.
We literally have no choice. We're obligated because we have the same DNA to be a support system for one another.
Yeah.
Everybody's not going to be a part of the journey, of course, but why not give it a go?
Yeah.
Because we already here, you know. So
what's your podcast about?
The podcast Lead Your Lineage. It's about intergenerational dysfunction for our families. So our mission is to reconnect and heal families and facilitate those uncomfortable conversations. So that's what we do when we interview guests on our podcast and bring people on. We have transparent conversations about their upbringing, where they are now, and what they could change, what they would change if they could change something back in the day as they came from childhood to adulthood. Yeah. We just have transparent conversations. My cousin and I were two different personalities, two different people. We literally had that yin and yang combination. Nice. So it's completely different.
Yeah.
He'll come in he'll crack the jokes. I'm just in there chilling. I'm just chilling, doing my thing. I come in with a bar. He'll reflect on it. He'll come in a bar, I'll reflect on it. But it's two totally different personalities. We had two totally different upbringings as well. Wow. And that's what makes the podcast so amazing, because we capture a lot of different perspectives. Yeah. And my cousin, he grew up in the streets. I grew up in sports. And we have the same mission of getting our family back together. But the way we're getting there and the way we got to where we are now was completely different, and we can touch on different perspectives. Like I worked in higher education. I have a bachelor's degree. I went to grad school, got kicked out, got back in, and I left. Then sports, of course, and all these different avenues, like being in the schools, educating, speaking, all these different pathways that allow us to give different activations on what our generation is going through from different perspectives. So that's what makes us unique and stand out from everybody else.
I like that.
Thank you.
So with P30, what are your, everyone loves it here, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. It's changed my life for sure.
Yeah, how has that happened?
I started working at P30, July 2022. It was before the official grand opening. And how this happened, I was contemplating moving.
Oh. Okay.
Moving to Georgia. And I was just like, man, came in here, took a tour. My guy D Ross told me about the opportunity. I was like, okay, let me go check it out. Yeah. And came in here, checked it out. I was like, okay, I rock with it. This is the type of vibe I got every time I went to Atlanta. I'm like, I can do this. I can see myself here. And a couple weeks later, I'm sitting at the front desk.
Wow.
So it was just a divine alignment to be able to just come in and still work on my business and be myself while I'm working on myself too.
Isn't that amazing? Can you imagine this being done? And let me rephrase that. Can you imagine more people being able to experience this type of environment?
Yeah, for sure.
I
can.
The benefits that it would have. Yeah. You're able to come in and make a living to pay the bills. Yeah. But you can also work on yourself, work on your business. There's no other place where you can do that at.
Yeah, it's not. So it makes it's a unique situation. I really haven't had a toxic work environment story ever since I've been on the other side of college, to be honest. But it's nothing like it. Yeah. The work environment itself and the atmosphere is nothing. You can't compare it to anything.
No, you can't. Everybody that I bring here, they're like, "Oh my God, I never knew this was here." Yep. And they want to come back because you want a place like this.
And it's fairly new too. That's the beauty of it as well. It's fairly it being here on the far east side of Indianapolis is fairly new, and that's what makes it unique.
Yes.
To the space, because it's something that is fulfilling. It's fulfilling a lot of things that people want to do. We're giving them a concentrated destination where they can get a lot of stuff done within themselves and within their business as well.
Mm-hmm. Like the young gentleman, I don't know if you met them. Their organization is called Stack Over Shine.
Stack Over Shine.
And there's 3 guys, which you guys should probably have. I would love for you guys to interview them. Like, they're really dope.
What are they? I might.
Keanu.
Keanu. Okay.
And then Deshaun and then Vontae. But they recently got a membership here.
Okay. I might have interviewed them at Circle Center Mall. I don't know.
They was at Circle Center Mall. Like, Keanu used to work at the movie theater there at the mall.
I might have met them.
Okay.
I did during All-Star Weekend. I did and some interviews at Circle Center Mall. It was 3 brothers from that had a podcast. So it might be them. Okay. I don't remember their names directly though, but shout out to y'all brothers.
Yeah, they're dope. They really for them to be as young as they are, and they're really wanting to change the narrative for their generation. And when they found this, one of the guys was like, "This is our home," and so they're from the Far East Side.
Oh, that's dope.
And they all have different, lives that they've lived even at a young age and experienced, and so for them to feel that this is a piece that was missing was really, I thought that was really dope. Yeah, so this is a great environment.
Indeed.
So what made you even want to get into entrepreneurship?
Oh, that's a great question. Back in, so I'm going to give you the timeline. So January 9th of 2016, that's when the shine is sitting in front of you today. That's when the shift started to happen. Mm-hmm. I was finishing up my first season as a graduate assistant with the Indiana State football team. I love what I did. Just seeing all that goes into being a college football coach. I didn't want to climb that corporate ladder. Mm. So I didn't like and I'm not gonna say uncertainty. I didn't like the instability of every 2 to 3 years you got to uproot and go somewhere else. I didn't like that.
Yeah.
Now I like to travel, but I don't like to lose an opportunity and I got to go find another opportunity somewhere. I didn't like that. So I'm like, I want to do something different. And I was also mentoring in the Academic Enrichment Center as well during that time, where I mentored some freshman student athletes that were first year students as well. And that day I was in my room in my apartment, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I had a list of notes on my phone. It's like over hundreds of notes on my phone, going through and I made a list something. Boom. I had a list of everything I wanted to do. I did it maybe 6-7 months earlier than that. And the next thing on that list was entrepreneurship. Got college football coaching on there. Next thing was literally entrepreneurship. So I was like, okay, let me get online, start doing some research. And I found out about real estate. I was like, oh, okay. Real estate, all right, there's a lot of land out here, a lot of buildings out here. Everything is real estate, even the mineral rights in the ground, that's real estate. The air rights above the building, that's real estate. I'm like, oh, this is literally everything. I was never taught this, ever. Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, okay, who I know in real estate? And then one of my guys, shout out to Cortez, he was in real estate. He was also a mentor with the Bloom Project at the time. And I was like, okay, let me reach out to him. So this was that. So that the research on real estate happened in January, and I had a conversation with my father in April, and he shared with me some very personal things that essentially allowed me to do a lot of reflection. And he was very, very vulnerable, and he told me that he was holding on to a lot of anger from my grandfather. It was like when he was 18, so he was 63 at the time when we had that conversation.
Wow.
And he essentially was like, I wanted to. He said verbatim, sometimes I want to go back there and pull the trigger. Wow. He was suicidal.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. He looked me square in my eye and said those words, and I could tell he wasn't happy. Like, his health was declining. At that time, he had his left breast removed. He had arthritis, type 1 diabetes, gout.
Wow.
All these different health issues. He was taking care of my grandmother as well. Recently retired from work. So he took care of everybody but himself. Everybody else but himself. So I was like, okay, I don't want to live that lifestyle.
Right.
So I was like, how do I get to that lifestyle? That's, in my opinion, entrepreneurship. Because you got to put the work in to be able to afford that lifestyle, right? I wasn't left an inheritance, so I got to put some work in. I have the work ethic. Okay, we can do that. So July comes around, I have to make some decisions whether I want to continue being a college football coach or I want to get a job. So I was like, hey, let me step away from college football. So I really don't want to climb that ladder. A few days later, my dad passes.
Wow.
So he passes. He had a stroke of his brainstem, and that took his life. And the last words that I ever heard from him were, "I love you too." And all of this is in 2016, from like January to July 2016. And less than a month later, I ended up starting to work with the nonprofit Bloom Project, and that's allowed me to walk in my purpose on purpose. So, at my dad's homegoing service, a random brother, he's probably like mid-40s at the time, early 40s, mid-40s. He came up to me and was like, "Hey, your dad helped me get out of a lot of trouble when I was younger." I was like, That's when I had that. It was like something clicked in my head and in my spirit, like, yo, I gotta keep doing this consistently, because this is what I'm literally supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And I was like, what can afford me this? And that was entrepreneurship. So that was all that happened in July. August, I started working with Bloom Project. I'm as a mentor, volunteering as a mentor. That's my true calling. I want to work with young people and help them be a guide and a bridge from where they are, where they want to go. That's like can do that in my sleep any day of the year.
Yeah.
A black
That's
man.
When you know you're where you're supposed to be.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Black man entrepreneur comes in. He says to me, and this is my guy Cortez. I think he was at that meeting, or he might have been at another meeting like after that. But this is all in 2016. He comes in and says, "Business is everything, and everything is business." So we had an entrepreneurship discussion. And he's in real estate too, by the way. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm hearing this, and my perspective is changing.
The dots are starting to connect.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna start doing research on real estate.
Yeah.
My guy Cortez is in real estate. Keithville came and said, "Business is everything, and everything is business." I'm like, okay, this is starting to make sense now. It's just like I'm attracting all of these things. I started to do this research. August of that year, one of my mentors, he passes. He had a heart attack in his car, one of my coaches. And all of this happened. My dad's transition and my coach's transition happened all in less than a month.
Wow.
So at this time, I'm getting all these downloads from, okay, let's get into entrepreneurship. I'm starting to work on myself, starting to do a little travel agency stuff, some MLM stuff, because I'm like, yo, spring break coming around. I want to go on spring break. They want to go on spring. Why don't they just pay me?
And why don't we make money?
Yeah, it just all starting to click.
Yeah.
And then that summer hit, and I get in that dark place. I'm losing two very, very influential people that helped me become the person I am at that moment.
Yeah.
So I go into a super dark place. That's when I really started leaning heavy into personal development that year in 2016. So that year, I leaned heavy into personal development. I started learning more about myself, how my body works, who my great-grandparents are, what my parents went through. Started reconnecting with family intentionally, not just saying hey, by like really intentionally connecting with them. So all of this is happening in that year. And at that time, in the summertime, I also got a job at Indiana State University as a admissions counselor. So I'm starting so they literally are paying me to recruit students to come to Indiana State. I can do that in the back of my head. I just went through the whole process of Indiana State for the past 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
Being in grad school, so I can talk about that with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
So I'm getting paid to talk about Indiana State essentially. They send me up to Northwest Indiana, to the region to recruit students to come to Indiana State. So this is my sales experience essentially. I'm getting a sales experience. I didn't look at it like that until recently. Like, I really have sales experience.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'm selling this university, and then the next year, the incoming freshman, we have the largest enrollment in Indiana State history.
Okay, look at you.
I was a part of that. It wasn't just me though.
Right.
It wasn't just me. It was a team.
Yeah.
And I was a part of that team.
Nice.
And that's when we were successful together. So I'm like, okay, I have sales experience. I want to get into real estate. Okay, cool. I got this corporate job to be able to pay my bills. I'm able to save some money so I can invest into myself. Okay, cool. I'm making progress. Credit a little shaky. Let me work on that a little bit. I'm starting to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, let me figure this out. Then 2017 comes. I go back out again after we got the announcement of enrollment in student history, largest in student history, and I get real intentional about saving. So I'm on the road, instead of going to all these fancy restaurants in Northwest Indiana, I'm going to Whole Foods, and I'm starting my vegan journey now too.
Okay.
In 2017. So when I'm on the road now, I'm gonna go to Whole Foods, get the spelt bread, let me get the peanut butter and the jelly that's organic and no preservatives and all that, all natural, literally all natural stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm eating that. So I'm saving all these per diem checks now. Mm. And I'm getting it. So I'm stacking money, preparing for an exit. Then I meet with my guy Cortez. He gave me the game on how to really get into real estate. Just having conversations with him. He sat me down, sat my guys down. We got in that thing, jumped in head first. I left my job January of 2018. Had to get the holiday pay.
Right.
Had to get the 2 weeks holiday.
Of course.
Had to get that for sure. Left that job, put the 2 weeks in, left January 3rd of 2018. Now I'm in real estate. I got a little money saved up. Not enough, a little bit. I have money saved up. Dive head first into real estate with my guys. Part of that, these guys to this day are still part of my sacred circle.
Nice.
So we're diving into that. Leave my job January 3rd, 2018. We closed our first deal in March of 2018. Didn't know what the hell we were doing, but we got it done. What we didn't know is instead of paying ourselves, we should have put that money back into the business. We didn't know any better though. Yeah. So we all taking a little bit out, like, oh yeah, we did this. We celebrate. Yeah. Rightfully so.
Yeah.
We just weren't mature enough to, in the business sense, to be able to like, hey, we need to put this money back in, get more leads and do X, Y, and Z, right? So we go through this whole process. I'm like, all right, it's March. I'm good. We got a little money. Probably about June-ish now. Like, hey, my money running out. I get back. I gotta do something different.
Right.
Gotta do something different. So, but I go back to 2016 when that brother came up to me and said, "Hey, your dad helped me when I was younger get out of some trouble." So I'm like, okay, how can I have that same impact now by still having some type of schedule freedom where I can make my own schedule, still traveling, do X, Y, and Z. I was like, substitute teaching. So I start substitute teaching. And I'm like, okay, I'm in the education space. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm still able to work on real estate. So I got a little hustle here. I can build my own schedule. I can go to Atlanta. I can go to Miami. I can go to LA. I can go to Chicago, whatever I want to do, right? So I'm living my best life, Melissa. I'm living my best life. So all of those situations helped me get into entrepreneurship. So I'm gaining all these practical life experiences from.
Did you know as you was doing that all of that was like the building blocks?
I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't. Honestly.
And this is one of the reasons why I do this, because I love people when they go back and really look at their story. They're like, oh, like that's why that happened, and the pieces come together, and which creates who you are today.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, at the time I didn't. When I was writing my book, that's when I started connecting everything. Like, oh, I did this, I did that. This is why I do this. This is why I do this. Mm-hmm. So it really didn't start to connect intentionally and honestly until I started writing my book, to be honest.
Yeah. So you was living your best life
Yeah,
at
absolutely.
17 and
Was out.
was it, and since has it continued? I'm sure you probably had ebbs and flows during your
Oh, for
business.
sure. For sure.
But what's been able to keep you focused on the bigger picture? Because it's so easy to focus on what's right in front of us.
Yep.
What has helped you to focus on the bigger one?
My why. Just having not going down the same road that my dad went with taking care of everybody but himself. It's real easily for men to be able to be a provider and have provision and all these things, right? But a lot of times, what I've seen just in my own life, the men in my life that did that didn't take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So I was like, how can we place boundaries up and also make impact as well? So that what would give me that type of lifestyle is entrepreneurship. Yeah. That's why I'm heavy into it. And now I end up buying the job, right? So that's the start of it.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting more mature, and as I'm growing, pardon me, as I'm growing in business, I'm like, okay, I can buy back my time. I can put this in place. I can stop doing that because it's not bearing any fruit at all. And also, this is not even what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So I had to explore all of that while I was writing my book, and how I got into entrepreneurship. The foundation of that was anger. That's the anger that my dad had. That was surfaced up when I'm doing all this research about real estate and how people have been marginalized out of these different opportunities, redlining, who owns the most land in America, who owns the most land in Earth, all these different laws that I'm doing a whole bunch of research and really getting to the nitty gritty of it. So all this anger is surfacing now. And my dad suppressed it, I've suppressed. I'm like, where's all this anger coming from? I ain't even really went through nothing like that for real. Outside of like grieving deaths. Yeah. I didn't even know how to properly grieve either during that time.
Yeah. I don't think anyone has ever been taught that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm not gonna say that, but it's tough
because they don't know how to grieve. So how can you ever show, and then everyone's emotions are different too.
Absolutely, and it's just finding a way to live with it. Shout out to Coach Cabral too. He said this when he was on the Indiana State staff when I was a GA. He said when it hits you, it'll just hit you. Just let it hit you. He was talking about the emotions of missing a loved one and things of that nature. So he's like, when those moments hit you, just let it out, cry, whatever you need to do to let it out. Just don't suppress it. Don't bury it. And that was some very practical advice. That was very intangible at the same time. So when he's like, when I feel it, sit in it, process it, let it flow, let it go. If you need to keep it. But don't let it stagnate you. Yeah. That's what I took from that. I'm reflecting on that now. And that advice of, and he had a saying to control the controllables. So the things I could control those things. If I can't control it, like when I'm going to get emotional about missing my loved ones, let's let it go. So those,
and go ahead. If you really think about it, there's not much we can control when it comes to outside of us. And
absolutely.
But those are the things that we focus on.
For sure.
It's trying to control that instead of being here.
Unfortunately, that's one of the things that I had to discover too. When I was actually writing my book, I took a few months off because I uncovered and rediscovered some emotions that I suppressed. I didn't even know I had. So just dealing with the anger piece is like, if anybody just seen me run, they would never know I have anger issues.
Wow.
They would never know.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just know how to control it. I learned how to control it. I never lashed out or crashed out on anybody. It was just something that I just suppressed. And I would always, 90% of the time, Melissa, I'm okay. 90% of the time. And I look at on my life and all the things that have happened to me, 90% of the time, my life has been okay. I was in the hood. Yeah, we were in poverty. Yes. bills were paid. We didn't have much left over. All the needs were taken care of.
Yeah.
What I found out in that process was the lack of affection
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't receive.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that affection with accomplishments in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of my message too when I talk to young people, especially student athletes. It's like, yo, you have all these accomplishments and all these accolades, but there's more to life that you receive affection from that. But when that stops, where do you get your affection from?
Yeah, that's huge.
It is. It's a multi-dimensional conversation that we don't have with ourselves.
Because I didn't realize I didn't grow up in a very affectionate home.
Mm-hmm.
And if it was always conditional on my mother's side. So
I feel that.
Yeah, and then my dad worked, so he was, gone, but he was a provider. But yeah, and I didn't realize that until you get older and you start navigating your own personal situations.
Yep.
And when you're struggling with something, you're like, I think I'm a affectionate person, but then when you start uncovering and sometimes things happen to you, like when I had my car accident, I had lost vision in my left eye and like it shut me down. Mm-hmm. And I was in a dark place mentally because I couldn't do anything. And when you are stopped and you are like, you have stuff starts popping up that you got to deal with.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, when it happens, it's best, in my opinion, it's best to confront it. And if it's you, like you, the person, it's best to confront it. And I'm not allow it to fester or not allow it to succumb or submerge you into the darkness that it is, because it's a dark abyss.
Yes, I say the mind is a beautiful place, but it can be a very dark place.
Absolutely, you got to have the soil to be able to receive the new information too.
And that's where that personal development comes in, because I had started doing personal development prior to that, so it helped me to not go as deep as I could have. Mm-hmm. And I preach that all the time. Personal development is like reading the book, and I know Tamise has y'all reading the 4 Agreements.
Yep.
Had you read that prior to that?
I haven't, but I've heard about it though, and it's challenging me too.
Isn't it? Like It's like, wow, like when you think of how we was brought into the world, we're brought in to act a certain way because of our surroundings, our environment, the people that were around, our family dynamics. But as you get older and you start making your own decisions, you're like, oh, I don't even like that music, or I don't even like that food, but we was taught to do that. And so it's nice to be able to, I feel like now this generation is more open to wanting to explore what they're wanting versus the generation above me, because I'm 46. How old are you?
How young do I look?
Oh my goodness.
How young do I look?
What you mean? That's what women ask.
How young do I look?
How long? I know. How young do I look? I mean, you look like you're like your early 30s.
That's right. Yeah, I'm 31.
Okay. The only reason why I say that because I feel like that's like the going. 31 is like the age right now. Everybody that I've been meeting has been 31. But just even like your guys' generation, I feel like my generation is kind of that tipping point, and then y'all are coming in really paving the way. And then these younger ones, like these ones in their 20s, like if we can put them in environments where they feel safe and they can flourish the right way, they'll be unstoppable.
Absolutely.
And I feel like this is an environment that provides that.
Most definitely. I agree with that 1,000,000%. And that's powerful.
Instead of creating, the ones like generation above me, they create stuff. Even some of my generation will create programs and we want them to conform to it. But at what point do you have conversations with them and say, hey, what do you think you need? What is it that you see within your peers that you need to see happen? Bring them in on those conversations. Let them make some of those decisions. Because best believe if you get their buy-in on it, instead of forcing it onto them, it'll change so much differently.
Absolutely. I agree with that 1,000,000,000%. Because it's a lot of the things that, and I've noticed this too, working with young people. They don't feel heard at home.
Or at school.
And I had 2 group field trips recently, and I was jokingly saying like how I feel to escape today. And they was like, and they felt like it was, and they like opened up. We went to the escape room, so it was fitting. Like, how did it feel to escape today? You know what I'm saying? So that was one of the places we went, and it was like, it's like set up. One of the students, he said it was set up it's literally set up like a prison.
Wow.
It was like, you can't do this, you can't do that. You eat at a certain time, you do this, do this. It's just like they're preparing. It's like he was like, and he's an 8th grader.
Wow.
Articulating this. Like, I'm being prepared to do this. I'm not gonna do it, but I see it now. It's like when you have the phones. When my mentor said, "Don't make your smartphone dumb." Now I will always carry that with me, and I will always share that with them too. But I encourage them to look stuff up. Like the chef I had catered for them for the field trip, I was like, y'all look it up, look them up, see if y'all like the food, see if y'all like have their input on the entire process. So they literally planned out the entire field trip and what they wanted to do.
Nice.
We did a group vote. Everybody I picked on everybody. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Selected everybody, wrote everything, all the choices down. We voted. If it was a tie, had to be the tiebreaker, obviously, the person that's the chaperone, of course. Yeah. But outside of the tiebreaker stuff, they had input on everything.
And I'm sure you saw the delight and the excitement that they was like, oh wow, like my voice matters.
Yep.
Because I growing up didn't have that. Like, you do what you're saying, told, and you don't have nothing else to say.
Yeah.
And so to be able to provide that is huge.
And I did too, to a certain degree. My parents were 39 and 36 when they had me. Both my parents were born in the 50s. So I'm an old soul for sure. My grandfather was born in he's 91, so he's born in like the 30s, 20s, 30s, something like that. He was born in like the late 20s, late 30s. So he has a different situation as well from like growing up. So it's like every generation has their own battle to fight. The elders, they chose like civil rights and voting rights and things of that nature. And I believe my generation is the ones I'm around. We're choosing like family and entrepreneurship and time freedom and traveling and things of that nature.
Yeah.
That's what we're choosing.
They're like, I'm not about to wait till I'm 50, 60 years old to start enjoying life.
Absolutely.
That is not happening.
Absolutely. And then the young people I'm around, like the teenagers, they're like, yo, I'm about to look everything up. I'm going to speak my mind. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm not going to be scared of anything.
Then they are not.
Yeah, they're not.
And I love it for them. But again, they need those environments where they can feel safe to be that way. And of course, you kind of gotta, make it not pretty, but you have to kind of frame it a little bit, but still being able to allow them, like with you probably see the gentleman that comes in here, Chase, a lot.
Chase. What do you look like?
A little short, but he's not. She's by skinny. We did an event here with him. Okay. I had interviewed him. But his biggest thing is like he's from the streets. His brother was killed before he was 20. It was his twin brother. He was shot. So all the things that he's had, and he's 24. But he's like, I don't want to be angry. He's making an active choice to say, I want to change how I'm going to live this life. But he's like, I need space to do that. Yep. And so I'm like, come on over here. And when I took him to a gala, he was like blown away because he was like, I've never been to an event like this. And he's like, I would not even expect me to be able to be in something like this. And just to see him be so happy and like, I want my peers to see this. So I'm like, all right, it's done. My nonprofit really is providing a space, and I tease them because I'm like, this is a home, and you all come in and decorate it. Like, I want you to be able to come in and have that free will. I said, I don't care what you do as long as you ain't killing nobody or doing hard drugs. Because weed is susceptible. That's a question.
I got you.
That's subjective.
Yeah, for sure.
But, as long as you're not doing that, I'm not going to have an issue with how you move. And they need to know that there's a space like that. And, P30 has been very instrumental in even helping me to even take that even to a more higher level of being able to provide that space.
Well, I'm so happy to hear that.
Yeah, I said this is my home. They're like, every time I tell someone I'm at a meeting, they're like, "Are you at P30?" Literally, that's the first thing they say.
Yeah, every time I see somebody come in and they ask for you, I was like, yeah, Melissa bring the whole city out. I'm like, she bring the whole city out every time. So,
but that's, I mean, when I find a space that, like, I want everybody to know about it. Like, you know, some people, they'll keep all that stuff to themselves, but no, like this, I tell Timmy's all the time, we need to have one of these in every corner of Indiana. Literally.
For sure.
It would definitely change the scope of things in the communities. And I don't think the government realizes what this is. You know, the city government, this is a gold mine right here. And it was created by the community, which is amazing. Like, we didn't need your guys' help. We did this. We created everything, and that's huge. Again, it's that ownership. So this is always going to be protected because people have, they have ownership in it. That's just like if you go to a job, if they know that they are getting a piece of that, like they feel like they have a share in it, then they're going to move differently. They're not going to be calling in. They're not going to, but if they feel like they're just a worker, then yeah, I'm calling in tomorrow because y'all don't care about me. And that's one thing entrepreneurship gives you, is the ability to be able to have and move like that.
For sure. And I'm glad you touched on entrepreneurship too. The myth of entrepreneurship on a time freedom level, the myth of it, going into it, I don't think this is talked about enough. There's way more practical ways to enter entrepreneurship than to dive in head first.
Yeah.
If you have that type of personality, go for it. I did.
Yeah.
Looking back on it, I wish I would have did it more strategically.
Yeah.
I wish I would have kept my job, and my job would have been my investor.
Yeah.
Then I could have used that income strategically to be able to pay off personal debt or consumer debt, to be able to invest into systems sooner, to be able to start building out business credit, things of that nature, to get completely away from it. And I think one of these days I'm gonna write a book detailing this, probably like later on in my life, detailing a practical guide to get into entrepreneurship from where you are. I don't know if that's gonna be titled, but I'm gonna do something along those lines. I'm just now starting to build business credit out. Personal credit is decent now, and like we're getting different opportunities from like grants and things of that nature. So it's a lot of different ways that, like I said, the exposure and the environment don't cater to the needs of entrepreneurship. But we literally can look at the United States 100 years ago. Pretty much everybody was in entrepreneurship in some capacity. Back in 1924.
Yeah, you're right.
Everybody was in entrepreneurship in some capacity. You had your own land, grew your own food. You were literally doing for self. You might have worked at a factory, but then when you got some food, you got to go home and go to the garden and get some eggs from the chicken or whatever you want to do. And you could have sold some of those chickens. You could have sold some eggs. You could have bartered, things of that nature. So everybody had some type of hustle going on. And it's not like that nowadays. It's like a lot of people got defeated and they don't want the responsibility of taking care of themselves.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship grants you that opportunity. There's different ways to do that strategically that don't make it feel like it's a job again. Well, I definitely got into it, and it definitely felt like a job again.
Yes, because it's like all you think. You're like, oh my God, if I don't do this, I won't get paid, and that stress is real.
That's the way of life, though. Yeah. That's the way of life. So it's like I've been really pondering life design and what that looks like for me. Like having a privately held, family-owned business. Like I personally want to be financially retired by the age of 40.
That's
meaning I don't have to go clock in anywhere, specifically in my business, to be able to be.
Well, the whole point of having a business is for you to be able to walk away, not that you have to be there for everything to run. That doesn't. No, I don't want to do that. But I like to your point of saying that, building those systems, having those things put in place before, because most entrepreneurs don't have a bookkeeper, don't have a CPA, don't have any legal assistance. It's just winging it, them in Google, and which takes more work. So I like what you said. Even if it's a part like this, definitely have some other type of income coming in, and then build it. Because when you do that and when you're able to walk away, like the stress that you have when you're trying to do emails and everybody needs an assistant off the bat. Because there's no possible way that we can all do our bandwidth. We just don't have that within us.
Absolutely, and to that point too, that's why I think family business is so important, because everything that you bring in is literally going back to your family, every single dollar. And then also on the other aspect, so you really talk about infrastructure of of just your family. Why not be able to fund somebody with your own personal credit or your business credit that you worked on, or you start a nonprofit or you start a foundation and you fund somebody in your family to go be a lawyer for the family, to go be a CPA for the family, to go be a marketing expert for the family, somebody that does sales, somebody that creates apps for the family, that handles all the IT. Like that's where my mind is now. So identifying the people within my family that have those type of gifts and really building an intentional relationship. Like, hey, what do y'all want to do? Well, like, what do y'all really want to do? Like, I'm setting this up so everybody can eat one day off of this business. We got some work to do.
Yeah.
But that's the vision. But what do you truly want to do? And I might have an opportunity for you to plug into what we have going on that can get you to doing that. You just have to come back and do that for the entire family.
I love that.
Whether if you want to be a
that right there is the generational wealth.
Absolutely. Because
it's
your
not
genes.
about passing on the money and the money and the money. It's about creating. I love that ecosystem within your family. And like you said earlier, that could include other people that come across your life that are now in your family. Yep. It doesn't necessarily have to be blood, but I do. Well, you look at different cultures. The Hispanics.
Yep.
Man, they will all move in one house and be 20 of them, but they all have their own businesses. And they will work towards one business. Once that's established, then they move on to the other. The person, okay, who's next in line? The Indians do the same thing.
And also, too, with even with that example, my grandfather, on my dad's side, I only have one grandparent that's still alive with us on Earth. And it's like 7 or 8 of them living in one house. And I was like, man, I wish I would have had that growing up. I kind of had it growing up. Well, I was in one house, and my nephew I only have one brother on my mom's side. So my nephew, he was a few houses down on the same block as me. My grandfather, I just mentioned, he was the next block down. My great grandmother, his mother, was right behind him. I really didn't have a relationship with her though, but she was right behind him. And my dad's mom, my grandmother, she was right around the corner. I could literally walk to her house and cut their grass and everything. I have 2 uncles that lived probably maybe a quarter of a mile down the street, a few blocks down. I could literally walk to both of their houses. So I had that type of village growing up where like my family's there, but we didn't have that. We didn't have it in one compound, but we were in one area.
Yeah.
So now just taking that same concept, like, this is how I grew up. How do I put this in the same compound with my own family? So that's where my mind is now.
Yeah, I love that. And you're in the real estate boot camp now too. Is this your second time taking it or first?
This is my second go around.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was my second go around.
This is my first one, and so far I love it. Like I've always wanted to get into real estate, but there's just so much. I'm a hands-on type learner. So I don't like doing anything. To me, stuff like that online is not going to be beneficial for me. I need to be in the classroom, being able to hear what people experiences and different things. So
it's so many different aspects of real estate. When I first got into real estate, I was wholesaling houses. Then I transitioned into commercial real estate, or attempted to transition. Let me correct myself, with a group of people. It fell through because we put some LOIs in, letters of intent, and we essentially got outbid like 4 or 5 times. So there was just people that had more experience, that had more connections, that had more money than we had, and they knew what they were doing too. They'd done it before. We didn't know, so we honestly got discouraged, and we kind of dismantled the group. But that real estate bug is in me, and it's been in me since 2016 when I started doing research. And last year I found a book that was in my mom's collection of like family pictures and stuff like that. I'm like, what is this? And it came out in May of 1999. Somebody on my mom's side of the family published like our family tree essentially. And I think it's one of my great uncles in Roxton, Texas. He had 640 acres of land.
Wow.
So me knowing this now, I'm like, why am I so fascinated and so in love with real estate? Because it's literally in my blood. It's literally in my blood. My parents, they own the house I grew up in until like '08 when the whole recession and crash happened and whatnot, the real estate crash happened. When they owned that house and they lost it. And I never wanted to put my family through that again. And then I connected the dots last year with seeing that book and reading it, that one of my ancestors had this amount of land. Like literally, he was born a few months before June of 1865.
Wow.
But then he migrated to Texas and acquired the land. I don't know how he did it. I don't know what he did, but he did it.
Yeah.
You know, and that memory is still within me. So it's like when I was doing research, it like activated him to be able to like, oh, boom, okay,
yeah.
It was like he
dope.
came alive within me.
Yeah.
And it was able to give me that inspiration to get to leave my job and to get that first deal done.
Nice.
So
are you gonna be trying to get some deals this year?
Honestly, the only thing I'm working on in the real estate space is getting my own property. Get my own personal property. Right now, I'm really focused on podcast and building a brand around my book. And that's like with speaking engagements, things of that nature. So I'm really not focused on anything real estate wise outside of just getting my own property.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I'm in the process of beginning stages of getting that done. So I want to get that done like September, October of this year.
Nice.
Yep, so and it might be even sooner than that because I got a call a few days ago from somebody that has a property that's coming online.
So you want property, not any fixtures, any buildings on it?
No, it'll be my own personal residence.
Nice.
Yeah, it'll be the first so leveraging all the different leveraging the program like first time home buyers, FHA, something like that to get into my first property.
Yeah.
So that as my primary residence, that's all I'm focused on in terms of real estate.
Yeah. Okay.
Still networking and making connections.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my only intentions for this year with real estate.
Yeah. Nice. So where can everybody find you at and follow you?
Absolutely. So everybody can lock in with me on Instagram, Sean the Light, SEAN the Light. Also Lead Your Lineage on Instagram. Lead Your Lineage, as you see here. Lead Your Lineage. That's our podcast page. Facebook.
Are you on YouTube?
Yeah, we're on YouTube as well. Yep, YouTube, Instagram, Lead Your Lineage, Facebook, Lead Your Lineage. All platforms, Lead Your Lineage. Personal page, Sean the Light on IG, and on Facebook, Sean F. Washington.
All right. Well, this has been enjoyable. I've loved learning about you and your journey, and it's powerful. And I know that it's going to inspire somebody because that's all our stories do that, and we all don't think that our stories have an impact because they're just our stories, and we're just like, oh, that's just part of me, and so that's important for us to be able to share that. And then I can't wait to bring you back 6 months to a year because I bring my guests back.
Let's do it.
To let people see the growth, and then you can see your growth because, as you said, you didn't really realize until you started writing your book that you saw that growth, and so it's important for us to be able to continue to see that because that gives us inspiration to be able to continue pushing through. So would you like to leave our listeners with any final thoughts?
Yes. I have two things. Know who you are, be who you are, love who you are. That's the foundation you should build on. And once you do that, go inspire your family to do the same type of work and lead yourself so you can lead your lineage. And once we get our families back together, the whole entire world changes because families rule the world.
Absolutely. I love it. So make sure y'all follow him, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Our Generation with Melissa Shaw, where we educate, empower, and inspire. And hopefully you've gotten all of those things in this episode. Everybody have a good one. We are out.
All right, y'all. Peace.